Hi, I'm Pradeepa, and today I want to show you how to paint this beautiful Easter painting, which you can use in cards or as a painting in and of itself of these eggs in a basket. So let's get on with it.
For this, you will need cobalt blue, phthalo blue, sap green, yellow, gold, and I used quinacridone gold, and then there's the burnt sienna, permanent rose, red, quinacridone magenta, quinacridone violet, and ultramarine violet. Once you have all your colors, you'll also need to get your setup ready. And for this, I've already drawn all the things with pencil, and I've put it on a 9 by 12-inch watercolor paper. This is Bockingford, and I put tape around it to secure it. You could use masking tape or any other tape. Brushes wise, I've got a small, maybe a size 2, size 6, and a size 10 brush. And also you will need 2 water containers, one for dirty and one for picking up fresh water. You'll see it as we go on. You'll also need some tissue. Um, and so I think that marks the end of our setup. Now the drawing is down in the comments. You can download it. Now let's get started. First, we're going to mix up some um, burnt sienna. As you can see, I'm making it fairly watery and also some yellow. Now we're just going to mix that burnt sienna and the yellow together to make that slightly lighter color. And we're going to come and paint the basket. And I'm just following the curve of the lines that we painted in each of those basket um, weaves. So I'm following that and not too worried about filling the whole thing. Even if there's a bit of white showing at the top, that's fine. But I'm just following the curve with my brush, and that's a great way of making sure that the contour of the basket is well maintained. So I'm just carrying on and doing the same thing. You always need to make sure that your brush is well fed, or rather it's full of paint. So you need to keep going back if you find that your brush is getting dry. So once we put all the color into the main body of the basket, we can go and start putting the handle, and that's obviously a different shape. So there's a few vertical lines and then horizontal lines on top, and then we're going to paint the handle. And you can see it's this kind of gentle S-shaped stroke that you follow all the way to the top to where the bow is. And then we're going to come round the bow and start painting those inverted S-shaped curves. You can see I'm doing that now, like a gentle S shape all the way down back to the basket. Now, we're also going to do the rim of the basket, and it's a very similar weave, so that kind of an S shape going all the way around into and all the way actually beyond the handle on the left side, and you can see a bit of the rim on behind the handle on the right. We're going to mix up some more of that mixture, that burnt sienna, but probably now more burnt sienna and more sepia so as to give us a darker brown. So we're going to come back and put in the shadows in the basket. I may even have a touch of black in there just to make sure that we've got all the shadows in there. Now you can see as I put it in, the uh, paint is quite wet, and I've put, like tea-like, coffee-like texture, consistency paint into the mixture, so it just bleeds out a lot. So one of the solutions is to use a smaller brush, like what I'm doing now, and that'll hold a lot less water and less paint for that matter. And I can come back and I'm just repairing where that thing bled at the first place by just picking it up with a dry brush. So I'm now continuing with my smaller brush and just adding those darker areas just underneath. So I'm presuming the light is coming from on top, and that the uh, the highlights or the lighter bits are at the top and the darker bits are at the bottom. So I'm doing that, repeating that for every weave of that basket. And you can see how that basket is coming together as we're honoring that drawing that we put in first and making sure that the whole weave is, um, we're maintaining that integrity of that weave. We're just connecting it there and then going. And if you keep maintaining that, then it will look like a very believable basket. Now we've got several more layers to go, but I'm just finishing this first dark layer on top of the wash that we put before. And I'm just tidying up those edges there, because we need to make sure that it looks like a basket. And I'm going and doing the same thing to the rim again. We are, just making sure that the darks in that rim are obvious. We'll have to also go and smooth out. Now, when you add that darks in the basket, you'll find sometimes it just stays put there. But you want a smooth transition from that dark to the light. So when it doesn't quite transition smoothly, you can go with a brush with just plain water in it and just tickle the edge of that um, line that you've drawn. It will just flow out into the rest of that weaving bit. So that's what I'm doing. I'm adding the darks and just blending that edge out so it's not a very harsh line where it meets the main body of that weave. Coming back in again, and you'll notice that the places where those weaves meet is actually quite a lot darker than the rest. So that's what we're doing here. We're showing that there's an overlap of the weaving there. And so we need to add those darker colors there. We're also going and defining the edge of that handle where it meets the basket. So that bit is more straighter. And then we're also defining the edge of the bit where the handle is woven around. So that now immediately makes it look much better, in my opinion. And I'm going and repeating the same thing. So you see, it's the same process. So we're now putting in the darks in the handle, following pretty much the same process that we did in the basket. So this paint that I'm now applying is much more concentrated. It's more like perhaps coffee or milk rather than the tea consistency that we first put. So I'm going in with that thicker paint now and just weaving that, and also outlining, using that darker color to outline the edge of the, or rather the end of the handle there. And again, I'm coming in, some of the darker browns that we've added have just flown into the weaving bit. So I'm just coming and picking up um, the bit that has flown in with a clean brush, and as well as reinforcing those darks with so that because the problem is the watercolor dries 30% lighter from when you put it on, so you're constantly having to come in and add some more just to make sure that that effect is well pronounced. See, now when I'm adding dark, so this is almost my third or fourth layer I'm adding, and now it's starting to really come together as a basket. So this is something you need to be aware of when you are painting. You may require several layers, especially in watercolor, to get the desired effect. And I'm doing the same thing with the basket, where I'm lifting some highlights with the brush and then going in and putting the darker paints in the bit where it meets the next weave. So that both are important, the lighter bits, which are called highlights, and the darker bits, which are the shadows, and they also need to flow into each other, have a good transition. And then I'm repeating that with the rim of the basket. Now we're gonna, once we finish the basket, just sort of, I mean, you can fuss about with about all these tiny details as much as you like. So that's what I'm doing. The more you make sure the details are spot on, it will all look uh, very good in the end. So now I've washed my brush, cleaned it, and you can see I'm picking some more highlights up where the darks had gotten. Now we're mixing some permanent rose for our first egg. We're going to apply that to the egg on the right hand side. I've just moved my palette so you can see a little bit better. And it's a kind of, oh, sorry, we're going to the bowl, but it's with the permanent rose. We're going to the bowl first. We're just going to paint in the entire bowl. I'm not really worried about anything flowing into each other. And we are, this is where it helps to have it drawn out so that we know exactly where to paint. Um, Unless, of course, you're a very intuitive painter, but I just find it just helps to give a bit of structure to the painting. So we're going in with the same permanent rose and filling in the entire egg. So again, you need to make sure that you've got enough paint and water in your. So you see, I've just run out of water a little bit. So that's something you can do too. If it's just you've got paint, but it's just getting a bit dry, you can just gently dip the brush in the water and get some more pigment. Now I'm going with some yellow there and just dropping it into the top bit because this is going to be like a two-colored egg. So the top bit I'm dropping the yellow, not really worried about it flowing into the pink too much. If you use the same consistency of paint, it won't really move too much on the paper. Now I'm getting my cobalt blue for my next egg and filling that in. Now, the reason why we're flitting from egg to egg is just to let the paint that we put on the previous area to dry before we go back in again and put some more designs in. So that's all the cobalt blue there. Now we need to just put some highlights in, for which I'm just rinsing my brush, drying it, and then using that to pick up some highlights. So that's the light bit. Now I noticed that most of the highlight has become very light, so I'm just picking some more cobalt and adding that in at the bottom to just balance the whole area. And once that's done, we can go and get some green. In this case, I'm getting sap green. And we're using that to put the greens at the base of the basket. So it's as if the basket is sitting on some grass maybe. So we're just anchoring it to the ground. And it's just the sap green there that I'm now flicking, especially at the edges, into more grass-like shape. Rinsing that off and going and getting some yellow and putting that at the base or just below the green. Now it is going to mix and mingle with the green, but that's okay. And just see the way I'm using my brush in sort of grass-like strokes. All that's going to help in making it look natural. Now we can come in and deal with this later. It still needs some more shadows, which I think I'm just adding a few more shadows at the moment. And we'll let that dry and come back to it later. But it's now nice and grounded. So we're going and picking some red now for the next egg and adding that red into that whole egg. Once we fill the whole egg in, we've got to go and restore the highlights again. Now, just because we went and worked on the greens and then come back here, the other two eggs have had time to dry up a little bit. So hopefully they're not going to bleed into each other too much. so that I'm picking some highlights in the egg, and I'm just going to let that be. And I think I'm also picking some highlights in the first egg that we painted. Now, if it's getting really hard to pick up highlights, I suggest you do what I do. So I'm just making a tip with my tissue, and that's quite easy way to pick up highlights and restore the whites in the painting again. We now going with the violet, which I think I've got a ultramarine violet, dioxazine violet. It doesn't really matter as long as it's that blue violet. And then going in with the yellow, which is a nice bright yellow. And you can see my other eggs haven't dried, and the yellow is a little bit flowing into the other eggs. I don't really mind that because I think the different colors will be reflected on the other eggs around it. But we will go and tidy that up in a minute. Now we're going and putting like these lines, parallel lines in that blue egg. That's going to be the design of the egg. And notice that it's slightly curved, just to reflect the curve of the egg. So you've got to get that curve in. And I think I'm doing that with phthalo blue. Once we put the lines in, we've got to make sure that we pick up some highlights in the egg, so especially at that top bit where the light is falling from above. And you can see how just with a brush that's water-filled brush, I'm picking that up, but it's quite a dry brush. Once we pick that light bits up, we need to go and add the darker blues at the edges as well, just to reinforce the shape. Now, coming on to the first egg, we need to add the rose as a second layer, and you can see now how that egg is designed now. So this is why I added the gold there at the start. Once we put that, I think it's more a magenta color, but once we've done that, pick up some more magenta and drop some flowers or floral shapes. I'm almost just dropping them as dots in the egg. And you can see that the egg is still wet, and so the color I've dropped is still spreading. So I'm going to leave that alone for now. So if your egg is quite dry, you can go and do that straight away. But I think I need to move to another egg while this dries. So in the meanwhile, I'm just using that magenta and red combination to put in the folds in the bow above, and using that to also put texture in the bowl, put the shadows in the bowl, and that color, that magenta color, acts as a really good shadow color for the pink that we've already put in the first instance. And it's also a good opportunity to then pick up some highlights, which again I'm doing with a just wet brush, which is just wetted with water. It's got nothing else on it. So then it's important to put the shadow for that bow area as well, where it's knotted. Then we can rinse our brush and come and faff around a little bit more with the blue egg, and you can see actually it really helps. It's a much darker phthalo blue now, and I'm going and filling in all those gaps. But now I've dropped that darker blue, I need to make sure it's all blended in smoothly with the rest of the stripe. So that's what I'm doing with a brush with just water in it. I'm just going and teasing that color out and spreading it to the rest of the painting. So I do apologize for my head showing in there. I'll make sure it doesn't happen next time. But this time we're taking some quinacridone violet and just dropping them as like little crescent moon shapes on that egg. Now I think that egg again is quite wet, so I'm going to leave it for now and work on the other egg instead. So with the same combination of colors, with a combination of pink and magenta, we're dropping that floral shape, small little flowers again into the egg. And it's actually formed a nice gradient where there's a shadow and the light on top. So we're just going to reinforce that a bit more. I'm almost painting around the flower shapes that I've dropped with that red um, that I'm picking up right now and adding it in. I'm just weaving it around all the shapes. And then I think it also needs coming round the bottom and adding to the top, just to define the shape a bit better. So just bringing that round at the top there, and there we go. And so that really helps to define that shape, doesn't it? I think we also need some of that, uh, then that's just me blending it out again. I'm picking some more of that stronger red and dropping it at the bottom, because you do need to give that illusion of darkness, and then it becomes a bit more lighter, and at the top it's quite light. That, see, immediately that egg looks so much more 3D because we've done that. And again, making sure it all flows in and there's a smooth transition. Whenever you want to blend like that, just going in with a brush with just water, and but make sure you take out much of the water when you do that. So that's why having that tissue is quite handy over there. So I think I'm quite happy with that egg now. We can now move over to add some more greenery. I'm presuming there's some grass or green thing that's inside the basket, like something for it to sit on. And we're using that same green as a shadow color just under the basket where it's sitting. Um, and then we're going over to the first egg, and we're putting those bright red spots now on the body of the egg. Um, it's quite dry now, it's not spreading anymore, so now's a good time to add those um, colors. You can see my color is starting to fade out, so that means I need to go back and get some more paint, so which is what I did. And once we've got all those nice dots in, we could also go and just I'm just evening out the colors of the dots now, but we could also go and add some shadow colors into that egg, and I'm just weaving around the bottom of the egg, around the dots that we painted, so that it's we're doing the same thing that we did for the other egg. We're adding the shadows, and we're also going and using the brown that we've got, that browny green mixture. I think there's a bit of uh, burnt sienna and a bit of that green, sap green, that goes in to just add a bit of shadow there, um, because I'd imagine there'd be some of the green and some of the basket underneath. Now I think that egg is quite dry now, so you can go and reinforce that sort of crescent shape with that violet, and that should hopefully be a good design for that. Now we also need to come back and just pull out some petal shapes. See how I'm pulling out like little triangles out of that crescent? Um, and that's a good way of, so we're almost saying that the flowers are on sort of their side. We're looking at it from the side. And once we put all that in, you can see I've messed up the flower at the bottom. They've all got connected. So we need to separate those, that big blob of flowers at the bottom. And for this, my magic tissue paper comes again. I just run it through between the two and just separate it with one swipe of the tissue paper like that. See, I've got that gap back. Now, once we put all that in, we're happy with the shapes, which I think I'm quite happy with. It will come together in the end, I promise. And I'm just, you can see, just spending some time making sure those shapes look good, or they look believable as flower shapes. And you can see much of the flower shapes that we put in into the first, the second egg is already starting to fade. So that's something you need to bear in mind always. Watercolor is going to fade. So don't be afraid to go in with multiple layers just to get the tone and shade you want. I was too lazy to wait for everything to dry, so I paid the price for that. So all we need to do is just go back in and add the darker shades again. Now, I think I'm quite happy with that. We're going to go and add some violet to just define the edge of that. We've lost the edge of that violet egg a little bit. So we're just using and just defining. Now at this stage, the yellow egg is dry and the violet egg is dry. That's why it doesn't matter too much. You can go and go right over that edge and define the egg much better. You can see how immediately it looks so much better. Excuse me. And we're also just picking up where the paint may have flowed a little bit more, just making sure we're defining that all the little flowers there. Can you see what I'm doing? I'm just going in a semicircle shape. Now I'm getting some gold. I think this was quinacridone gold or gold ochre. And I think I've got a particular idea for this. It's like a bunch of leaves meeting in the middle. I don't know what leaves these are, but this was the idea I had. So make a leaf shape, make it come down like an elongated leaf shape, and have multiple leaf shapes then meet up in the middle like that. So there we go. See that? I think that does look good. The gold really suits that egg. And I'm just making, I'm imagining an egg where that goes all the way around. So I'm adding some more to the sides this way and that way. I think that looks good and almost looks like the centerpiece of the whole or bunch of eggs there. So I'm quite happy with that. Now coming and adding some more of that, I think that gold at the top where the where that zigzag kind of ends. And you see how that egg has really come to life now, coming with that second layer. You can still see the highlight that we put in right with our first layer, but that looks quite nice, I'd say. And now with the gold, I'm also outlining that egg, that middle egg, coming back in with some green. I just wanted to add some grass-like things peeking out here because we've got grass peeking out on the side. I figured we need to have some more grass at the front just to make it all look um, even, so that it reads well for the eye. Now, having done that, yeah, so just going around and just making sure we're conveying that all the way around. I think later I go back and put some grass in the back between the blue and the violet eggs as well. So just have like quick flicks with your brush. As long as it's loaded, it will make nice grassy impressions. Now I'm getting that gold again, and now I think I'm just tapping over that again. See, that grass is now in, and I'm defining the edge of this gold thing again. But now, oh yes, and putting in some more darks for that violet egg, or blue, purple egg, however you'd like to call it. Just defining the edge of that egg quite well, because all this matters in the end. Is what makes that painting look good. And I'm also connecting, I think, the individual flowers, but perhaps not yet. It looks like I'm still working on the individual flowers. They do look really good in the end. I'll show you a close up towards the end, and then you can see how it actually looks. Next time I'll make sure when I'm putting in these small details that I break it up closer so you can see what I'm actually doing much better. So I am just fiddling with that, making it look more flowery. And then I'm picking some brown and also, sorry, rather the burnt sienna, and maybe even mixing it with some permanent magenta. And having that fine tip brush, I'm just going and drawing little stems and connecting up all the flowers. So you see how I'm just bringing them all together. And I think that really helps to pull it all together for that egg. It started out looking quite messy, but just adding that stem has really helped. And that has now given me an idea to do that for the other egg out here in front where we put that pinky red flowers as well. I really love how that looks now. It really brought that egg to life a lot more, I would say. Now I'm washing off my brush, picking up some green and some of that brown as well. And like I said, I'm going in and just connecting up, adding stems or rather, yeah, like branches. So you can see how I'm connecting up all the. Now don't make it too regular. Make the branches as irregular as you can. Don't let them all come down in one, um, like very regular thing. The more irregular and organic it looks, the better. So that looks quite nice as well. Now picking up the gold, we're now adding gold circles to the top of that egg. So it's the same pattern that carries through, but with different colors in each section. So we've got that gold over there. And I think that pretty much brings we're coming into land now, nearly finished with the painting. And I recognize I might need some more spots there. So that looks quite good. Well, you can make your own design if you like. I'm picking that red and just adding just some more darks there to define where the darkest darks are. Adding some shadows where the string ends. And I think that looks quite nice. Now, I think just getting some green and adding some darker green there. Just a few little bits here and there too. I think you can see how just adding some dark greens really make that stand out, that area stand out as well. I think that painting is ready, so we're ready to take off that tape. Just make sure you pull out like I'm showing you there, rather than pull into the painting. So pull out like that. And that's the Easter basket painting all ready for you. You can see the close-up actually does turn out quite nice. I like how that looks. And it's nice and vibrant. You could paint this for a card. And I hope you enjoyed watching that. Give me a like or a comment in the comment section. It really helps me to reach more people. And please do subscribe to my channel as well if you enjoyed watching this, so that I can keep making more content like this for you. Thank you so much. Bye now. Bye.